Welcome into Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Today on the show, the Falcons' offensive line probably going to look different coming up in the first preseason game on Friday. Bring Roquan home. And, how long is Ian Anderson going to stay down in the minors? We'll talk about all that next. It is Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Welcome in another edition of Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. We ask you to head to youtube.com. When you get there, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. Hit that subscribe button when you find our page. Leave us a comment there. And, of course, we are free and available on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify and Odyssey. Leave us a 5-star review. And then, of course, follow me on my personal Twitter page. That would be at JMCH316. So we get ready for Falcons' first preseason game coming up on Friday in Detroit against the Lions. And one of the things that I'm going to be watching, because I do believe that we're going to get some changes, is on the Falcons' offensive line. So if I had to guess right now what that first group is going to look like, because we also got word yesterday that both the Lions and the Falcons are going to play their starters at least a quarter. So we know that we're going to get whatever you see coming right out of the gate in that starting lineup is where their coaches are looking at it right now as to who their stars are. Doesn't mean things can't change, right? As we say in the wrestling business, plans change, pal, right? So anything can happen. But as of right now, if I had to guess, Jake Matthews will play at left tackle. It will be Elijah Wilkinson at left guard. It will be Drew Dahlman at center, Chris Lindstrom at right guard, and then Caleb McGary at right tackle. So let's start with McGary first, because I talked about before on the show how I think right tackle really is the domino that falls to let everything else kind of fall into play. Give McGary credit. He's done a really good job in training camp, off-season, bulking up, getting thicker, stronger, and then through training camp, he's really won that right tackle job. Now, what does that mean when we get into the regular season and we play against all the top pass rushers in the NFL? Remember, literally outside of, Von Miller and outside of Micah Parsons, Falcons are going to see every single solitary top flight pass rusher that the NFL can run up at you. You want Watt, you want the Bosas, you want Mack, you want Garrett, you want this guy, you want that guy. You got them all. If they're not named Von Miller or Micah Parsons, you're going to see everybody who wreaks havoc on a quarterback. So give McGary credit. He has won this job. I don't know how much it's changed, because we'll find out actually when the competition level gets going here in the regular season. What will we learn in the preseason? We'll learn a little bit more about, was it kind of smoke and mirrors and winning some of these jobs and this, that, and the other. So McGary's going to anchor the right tackle spot. I think Drew Dahlman, and it's still a competition in a battle between Hennessy and Dahlman right now. If you're out of practice and you see, they're rotating those guys in and out. They're splitting the first team reps with those guys. But again, I think if there is an advantage, Dahlman was drafted by this organization, right? There's a little bit more of a tie to him. And I think that he's going to get his shot to start coming up on Friday night when they take on the Lions. That could change. Again, Hennessy's the incumbent out there. But I do think that they are looking for something different on this offensive line. And then as far as Wilkinson goes at left guard, let's be honest, he's won this job through camp. And he's been since day one. First day of camp was the only day that Mayfield ran with the first teams. Wilkinson from there has won this job, and he's been with the starters ever since. Now, we'll talk more about this here in just a second. But first, let me talk to you about my folks over at Dave. It is the banking app that, listen, we all get a little bit of a pinch and a crunch where we need a little bit of extra money, right? I mean, look, we all get a little bit behind. Paycheck doesn't come as quick as we'd like sometimes, right? This, that, and the other. Back to school, we've been putting out money for clothes and supplies and all these different things that are happening right now, right? Dave is a way to allow yourself to get as much as $500 instantly through their extra cash. So listen, you need some money for gas, you need some money for more school clothes, whatever it is, Dave is a way to be able to pick up a little bit of extra cash when you need it. So here's what we've got going on for you. I want you to go download Dave, D-A-V-E, download the Dave app in your app store right now. That's Dave, D-A-V-E. When you download it, I want you to sign up for your extra cash account, and you could get as much as $500 instantly, right? So for terms and conditions, you can go to dave.com/legal. Instant transfer fees apply. Banking provided by Evolve, member of FDIC. You need an extra $500 instantly. This is a way to try to get it. Download the Dave app. That's DAVE today. So Wilkinson has been running with the first team really since, the first day of practice was Mayfield, and since then Wilkinson's been doing it. Now, I'll say, does this mean that our offensive line problems are solved if Wilkinson starts and Dahlman starts and this, that, and the other? No. I mean, there's a lot to prove for those guys. It does make me feel a little bit better because I've talked about before on this show that I don't want to see the Falcons run it back, because there's no way that you can play Jalen Mayfield and Matt Hennessy side by side and tell me that we're going to get a different result out of it. Now, playing Wilkinson and Dahlman together might not be a whole lot better, but I'll take different, because when you have arguably the worst interior offensive line in the entirety of the NFL, there should be only one direction to go, and that's upward. And making some of these changes, and look, it is a true competition. Like, they are legitimately competing for these jobs out there. You would think that with some change, it should be a little bit better. So I'm going to be laser focused come Friday on what this offensive line looks like. Again, it doesn't mean that the final picture is going to be put together, right? We're not going to have the complete picture. We're not going to have the entire thing figured out with just one preseason game in the books. But I am going to be curious first to see what the starting group looks like. And I think it will be Matthews, Wilkinson, Dahlman, Lindstrom, and McGary. The one thing I know, well, a couple things I know for sure, McGary is going to be your right tackle. Now, that could be good. That could be bad. We will see. But with all due respect to Germain Ifedi, there's a reason why he's on his second team and the first 5 years of his career as a first-round draft pick and this, that, and the other. There's a reason why the Bears, and we'll talk about, Bears player that is more, on the move that I would like than all the cast-offs and things we've gotten from the Chicago Bears. But if you couldn't beat out Germain Ifedi, he might not even be, should not even be in the league at that point. So McGary has, I'll give him credit, locked up that right tackle job. Lindstrom, obviously, no one's knocking Lindstrom off. No one really right now is going to knock off Jake Matthews out of that left tackle spot. But the change of Wilkinson and potentially Dahlman. And look, we don't know for sure that it's going to be Dahlman. I'm not saying that this is set in stone, because Hennessy could get the start coming up on Friday. They may want to see more out of Hennessy coming up on Friday. What we do know is that you're going to see a lot of different offensive linemen that are going to play over these preseason games. And I like the fact that both coaches have already come out and said, we're going to play our starters at least a quarter. Dan Campbell, Arthur Smith, they both talked about, we're playing our starters. Arthur Smith has said, if you're healthy enough to play, you're going to play on Friday. That's a good thing. And Campbell has already said, at least a quarter out of my starters. So we want to get a better snapshot, because with only 3 preseason games now, you need to get a better snapshot of what some of these guys are going to look at. So I'm going to be fascinated. I've talked about this all through the camp and into preseason here about the Falcons offensive line, because I think that is the key to what the Falcons are going to be this year. If you want to tell me the Falcons are going to be better and they're going to be a better offense and they're going to be able to control the football a little bit more, then it all starts with that offensive line. Yeah, I'm going to watch running backs and receivers and quarterbacks and all that good kind of tight ends and all that good kind of stuff, right? And I'll be interested to see the combinations and who makes plays, but it's going to start with those 5 guys up front. And that was such a disastrous weak spot for the Atlanta Falcons last year. 29th in the NFL as far as grade goes, arguably the single worst interior offensive lineman. Now, look, the Mayfield situation is also going to be fascinating, because in talking to some people, there are questions about whether or not he will make the roster. I would be amazed if Jalen Mayfield doesn't make this roster. I would be amazed that after starting all last year, that he would come back in his second year and not make the roster. I don't think he's starting. I don't think he's going to be your starting left guard, but I would be amazed if he doesn't make the roster. So he'll be your swing interior offensive lineman. Ifedi will be your swing right tackle, although there's been some interest in Ifedi around the league that, who knows, Falcons may end up trading when all is said and done. But that offensive line is going to be where my eyeballs are going to be laser focused in on coming up on Friday night when they get to their first preseason game in Detroit. All right, when we come back, bring Roquan home. Let's bring him. Let's make the deal. Let's talk about that next. Hitting Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.